This is your place to hear authentic conversation from those who have power to share. My name is Amy Vaughn, and I am the owner and Chief Empowerment Officer of Together Digital, a diverse and collaborative community of women who work in digital and choose to share their knowledge, power, and connections. You can join the movement at togetherindigital.com. And today, I'm thrilled to introduce all of you and to have join with us for this next hour, an hour of insight, inspiration, and empowerment. We are going to dive into a topic that's pretty much on every marketer's mind right now, and that is how to leverage AI in what we do. In a world where AI is rapidly evolving, it's not about replacement, ladies and gents. It is about enhancement. Where we're here today to explore how you can harness the power of AI to supercharge your marketing strategies and drive better results. Our special guest today, Pam Dieter, is a B2B consultant, speaker, and author with a wealth of experience in strategic planning, account based marketing, and sales enablement. Pam has written not one, not two, not three, but five business books. She just, does all the things. And then when in her spare time, writes all the books, including
Oh, man.
very recently the modern AI marketer in the GPT era. So we are in for a treat. It is definitely something worth checking out and grabbing. It is a great tool and resource. It's not going to take you forever to read. It is going to be something easy and quick to digest with some fantastic prompts, something that you can take and start to put into action right away. So, over the next hour, we're going to unpack AI's role in marketing, dispel some of those myths about job replacement. I know it's a crazy market out there right now, and we're having to shift and change and embrace a lot. We're going to discuss how you can adapt your approach to AI for maximum impact. All right. Remember, folks, we've got our live listening audience here with us today. We love it that you are here with us. You keep us all honest and you keep us all authentic as we have our conversation here today. So, live listening audience, please feel free to use the chat, ask us questions. Let us know how you're feeling. We are all on this ride along together. So let's listen and learn and grow with one another. Pam, welcome to the Power Lounge. We're excited to have you here with us today.
Amy, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. It's wonderful. And it's live. Maybe
Yes,
I feel a little
I know,
special.
right? We're going right for it. Going right for it. And, for those who don't know you, maybe as well as I do, you have had an impressive career as a B2B consultant, speaker, and author. And I would love for those who are listening to hear a little bit more about you and your
Mhm.
career journey so far.
Yeah. I'm not a typical B2B marketing person. I'm actually have kind of like a twist of fate,
Hmm.
career change, if you will. So I'm actually was a CPA and I went to a dark side to become a marketer.
Yep.
I work in a big corporation for a long period of time, and way back then, they actually encourage us to move around.
Hmm.
And I was very fortunate, started with the finance and accounting, and then moved to operations, and then supply chain management, purchasing, and somehow landed a job doing event operations because I'm very good at operations.
Hmm.
So that manager hired me to actually do event operation, and somehow that led to trade show and events, which is I did for 4 years. So
Hmm.
if any one of you doing trade show and event, salute. It's a
Right.
hard job. And Amy, you
Yes.
know it pretty well. If you do the event, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And then
Hmm.
from there, I made a transition to doing marketing strategy as part of the corporate marketing team instead
Hmm.
of a direction, marketing direction and campaign direction for the regional marketing team. So, and I left that job. It was great, but I left
Hmm.
in 2014. And in the past 10 years, I've been on my own.
I love it. I love asking this first question because it really, again, every episode reemphasizes the nonlinear direction that
Yeah,
every
totally.
successful woman's career takes. I think for those who are early in their career, mid career, in a career crisis, it might feel, look at your collective experience. All of your skills are transferable. And I love how your company encouraged that because I know not all
Yeah,
companies
I
do.
was very lucky. Yeah.
Mhm. That's fantastic, and I love hearing that background because sometimes you learn things, even people that you're like, "Oh, didn't know CPA," but then broadening those skills and then taking and embracing all of your abilities and all of your gifts and, running with that usually lands you where you are absolutely meant to be. All right, let's talk about let's talk about the books.
Sure.
The modern marketing, the modern AI marketer
Marketer.
guide
Yep.
to Gen AI prompts that you have
Yep.
beautifully displayed there behind you. For those of you who like to see the books, yay, go check it out. Kaylee, so amazing, has also dropped that into the chat for our live listeners to take a look at. Those who are viewing after, listening afterwards, be sure to check it out in the show notes as well. You say that mastering AI prompting is no longer optional. I think a lot of us listening
Right.
would have to agree, and those of us who are listening or aren't there yet will soon be convinced. When did you realize that this shift was happening in the marketing world?
I think I started talking about AI back in 2019. So
Okay.
just wanted to put things in perspective.
Mhm.
ChatGPT was launched on November 30th, 2022.
Yeah.
And within 5 days, 5 days, it hit 1 million users. 1 million. And when I found out it hit 1 million users, I was like, wow, I need to check this out.
Yeah.
And then, of course, within less than 2 months, it hit 100 million users. So everybody was going to ChatGPT, which is kind of starting
Yep.
this Gen AI, revolution, if you will.
Mhm.
And then they just stopped asking questions. Why ChatGPT is captivating is
Mhm.
it gives you one answer, one. If you do, it's kind of like Google search, right? You are
Yeah.
asking Google for answers as well, but you have
Right.
to sift through many
Mhm.
articles. You have to read it. Do you know how much work that is?
So much work.
It's like, oh,
And
seriously,
then we
just
know
the
we're
answer.
getting sold to, right, too, because like the first page is all sponsored anymore
I was like, God,
anyways.
what are you doing? Right. So everybody was like asking questions, and I was like, oh my God,
Mhm.
there's the answer. You can ask pretty much any questions.
Yeah.
You can relate a coding question. You can ask him about IDA, your birthday party. You can ask
Yeah.
anything marketing related. You get
Mhm.
answer. The
Yeah.
answer is good or bad. You need to be a judge. You need
Yes.
to make a judgment call, but
Yes.
one answer is that
Mhm.
instant gratification.
Oh,
So
yeah. Yeah. It's like, the marketer's magic 8 ball.
that's right. And yeah, it is. Because I was saying, I would say, like, you know what? This is our BFF.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, as early as 2019, that's really interesting that you kind of caught on that early and was like, "Okay, this is something we need to be paying attention to." Was there any initial fear for you in that, or are you kind of one of those people that you're like, "Ah, no."
No, actually, that's a great question. To be honest,
Yeah.
and a lot of things or a lot of research I started doing, that's
Mhm.
because I have event organizers. So
Okay.
clients that come to me and say, hey, can you look into this?
Mhm.
So I actually have an event organizer come to me and say, can you talk about AI?
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, no problem. And I turned around, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna say. I just don't know. But then I started doing research, and way
So
back
you.
then, it's not. I don't. I call it like the ChatGPT kind of launched the consumerization
Right.
of AI. But way before
Mhm.
them, that people can actually use the algorithm or use a large language model to actually taking advantage of AI is big companies like
Yeah.
Google, like
Mhm.
Amazon. Like for example, the great example of AI is when you buy something on Amazon, they have the recommendation, you like this,
Yes.
therefore you will like these two. Check
Mhm.
it out, right?
Yep.
So the AI usage model I was using is more kind of like enterprise
Okay.
applications
Yep.
and less on kind of like how the marketer can apply to it.
True. Okay.
And then, of
Okay.
course, after ChatGPT, the whole
Generative.
world changed.
Generative, yeah.
Yep.
I think generative really lit the spark. I think a lot of us kind of didn't really understand what AI was and how much it was actually like in the background of our lives as
Exactly,
marketers and
exactly.
being leveraged as a tool. I mean, even in like creative applications and, like image editing and things like that. Yeah, we don't realize how much it was in the background.
Yeah,
But then we think AI and it's like all generative, it's all MLM and it's like large language models and it's not so much in the space of, other technologies. I think oftentimes we forget. We become so consumed
we
with
kind of
just
like
that.
take it for granted. For
We
longest time,
do.
the AI is really behind the scenes. It's
Yeah.
something like you cannot touch, you cannot smell.
Mhm.
And but it is working there for a long period of time. Like
It
for
is.
example, the Google search. I mean, the
Mhm.
Google continuously optimize
Yeah.
the Google search mechanism.
Yeah, the
So
machine
when
learning.
before you have to type the whole sentence, now
Right.
you just type 2 words and then there's
Yes,
two
the
them
predictive
suggestions.
text.
Exactly, and
Ugh.
that's AI in the work.
It
You know.
is, it is. And I think it does a lot too for the sake of, like, personalization and
Mhm.
just, like, creating efficiencies and things like that. I mean, we could get into and break down a whole mess of things as to, like, how it's helpful, but how it's harmful, but at the end of the day, it's I think, again, I'm, like, a digital gal sort of through and through. So for me, I think a lot of it was, like, this odd fascination that probably a lot of people felt when, like, in the '60s when we were trying to go to the moon, you know? It's like, "Wow, where will this take us? What will this mean?" And it wasn't really for me, even being like a background, like my background's copywriting. And I mean, that's straight what AI, generative AI is coming for, is like, is those who write. But then I'm also looking at it going, okay, but now people who aren't by trade writers now have the
They have
ability
ability
to
to actually, yeah,
storytell,
just
you
exactly.
know, people
I do agree with
researchers.
that. I do agree with that. And, so if you are a copywriter, I definitely feel there is a threat,
Hmm.
and in terms of like AI, can write faster and quicker.
Hmm.
But that doesn't mean, AI can write better.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
you need to understand your brand. You need to
Hmm.
understand your product. You also
Hmm.
need to understand your audience,
Yes.
and you know what tone and manner will make them click,
Hmm.
and you have that knowledge. AI
Right.
doesn't. The only
Hmm.
way AI can have that knowledge is through prompts, through
Right.
your
Yes.
direction of
Mhm.
guiding them. So it's
Yes.
still coming from your expertise. So I cannot
Exactly.
generate anything magically. Yeah, it can,
Mhm.
but you still have to give them
Yeah.
that direction, the
Yep.
guidance.
It's gonna be very vanilla otherwise, which
Yeah,
leads beautifully into the next question that I have for you is, in your book, you've
yeah.
included over 75 prompts in 12 sales and marketing categories. Yeah, there it is again. Great product placement. I love it. Can you share of those 75, because we don't want to give them all away. We're not giving them all away for free here today, folks. Can you share one prompt that you think would make that every marketer should have in their toolkit?
I think if you are using, I would say, the AI prompts right now, a lot of
Mhm,
you are using for like you do a social media post
mhm,
and you're going to write something and then you're going to ask like a chat GPT or AI prompt to rewrite it,
mhm.
just to make sure that it's grammatically correct or
Yeah.
there's another way to say it better. So I
Mhm,
think the one that everybody tend to use right now, as far as I can tell, and you can tell me otherwise,
mhm.
is social media posting.
Uh-huh.
Right. So it's just like rewrite it and then make it
Mhm.
better. And honestly, you don't like on LinkedIn, you don't even have to get out to ChatGPT to
You
do that
don't.
because they
Yeah,
have
they built it
literally embedded
in.
and say rewrite with AI. And I
Uh-huh.
actually tried that. I don't think it was that good. But
No,
anyway,
it
that's
wasn't
just
great.
me. Okay,
Uh-huh.
thank you.
I
So you
agree.
are the
It wasn't
copywriter and
great.
you validated my point of view.
Yeah.
And I think the writing part of it
Mhm,
is probably where majority of people or the marketers are using that for,
mhm.
like
Yeah.
writing a blog or whatnot.
Mhm,
And but I do actually have a point of view. There's a lot of things you can do. Like I said, I created. This is only 50 pages. Not I can tell you just go to chapter 3.
yeah. That's great.
That's where
I
the
love it.
problem is, and it's like divided by 12 sales and marketing categories.
Mhm,
And I write basically like, for example, I need a social media post for my organization.
mhm,
You talk about your company name, and that's public. Write a post for social media platform, which one,
mhm.
on this topic. For that topic, you should give a little bit more detail
Yes.
in a specific number of character. That's assumed that you only have to
Mhm.
use, like 228 characters or
Yep.
less. You can provide that specific instruction. Write it in some sort of tone, a conversational, a blog writing, formal business writing, write in certain tone, right? So
Yeah.
you can specify that. Include a call to action
Mhm.
at the end, and then you specify call to action.
Yep.
So the way I write every single prompt is kind of like a paraphrase
Yeah.
or paragraph
I love
that
it.
you can replace and add additional information to it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
And the more specific you can get, the better. And then what I've done is I've begun to just kind of keep those like saved and paste it and just to kind of like plop them back in because I'm
yeah,
going to use the same sort of prompt sort of over and over and over again.
yeah,
And I've definitely found that like, you can train your AI and
you
we'll
do.
get into this at some
And
point too. I've got a guest coming soon talking about AI agents, which I'm not sure if you're super familiar with AI agents yet
yeah,
or
I'm
not.
I'm
Okay,
I'm familiar with it. You can actually create an AI agent, and
great.
yes, to do that. The bottom line is, Amy, can I take
Yeah,
over what you just said and elaborate a
please.
little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like for example, Amy has this beautiful live, podcasting, and then she every single time she does this podcast, she has to come up with the title. She has to come with the meta description, right? And
Hmm.
these are like repetitive tasks for every
Yep.
single episode. So there is a prompt that has been written for to come up with a better title, to come up with metadata and a description.
Hmm.
So that description or that prompt doesn't change. You can
Hmm.
actually create a customized agent or
Right.
customize a personal assistant that just focus on these two tasks. So when you just have to change maybe the title and or give a little bit information about this specific episode, and then that agent will create same
Hmm.
the topic for you, because it's repetitive tasks and you build an AI agent for it. So you kind of automate, if you think about it, that specific process.
Yep.
I was
I
like,
love
oh
it.
my
It's a
God, this
great.
is so good.
It is so good. Well, because it's like that next phase, right? It's that next step. So many of us are kind of it's maybe a little hard to get your head around, but I love the way you just explained it so much, Pam. And it's like it's also I like to explain it as like a toolkit, right? Like
It is a toolkit,
you
yeah.
wouldn't grab a hammer out of a toolbox to tighten a screw, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, thumbs up. You wanna grab, a screwdriver to do that, and you're not going to, build a tool to do that, to screw in the screw every time, the screwdriver. You're going to want to just have the tool already built, So it's like that's what an agent is. It's like literally
Yeah.
having a screwdriver already set and already
It's
made
already
to
set. Yeah,
done.
because you are using that same screw, every single time. So that's automate that process to
Yep,
make it easier. So Amy
so
doesn't have
much
to think
easier.
all the time like, oh my God, I'm talking to Pam about AI. So what should the title be? That kind of
Right,
thing.
and the same
Am I
prompts over and over
exaggerating?
again. Yeah, and it's so great too because once you've like and I mean, you've got processes out there too that will help you kind of build and create your and I've seen this too. I was at Black Tech Week here in Cincinnati a couple months ago, and there was a guy there talking about like building out and programming agents for doing even like financial reporting and finance work, talking to a CPA here. So like there's a lot of stuff, not just marketing tasks even now that can actually be automated and done,
Yeah.
to a certain degree. Obviously, you have to keep what they call like the human in the loop to check for like error and
Oh,
processing
totally,
and
totally.
management. Because as these agents, like there's again, not to break anybody's brain here, we're getting a little off topic, but I start to nerd out. These agents can actually like work across like collaborate and work with each other and actually oversight with one another to some degree,
Yep.
apparently within some technologies and platforms I'm hearing about and seeing, which again, not to break anybody's brain, but here's the thing. It's like it's important for us to hear, see, and learn about these things because at the end of the day, this is just how our work is evolving, right? And if you think
Yep.
about it, it used to be that, generations before we built cars and things by hand. And then there came a
That's
time
right.
when we got out of the assembly line and
Right.
machines started being the things.
Taking over. Yep. It's kind of
But
that same revolution. You know what I'm saying?
mhm. It is. It absolutely is. So, all of the work that you're doing, I love that you're creating content for folks that feels, digestible and specific and actionable. And so when you were talking about creating these books and sharing them and I got my hands on them, I was like, we have to have her on the podcast because I
Yeah.
know this is such a big topic for a lot of our women out there that are members and then those who are, listening to the podcast and it can feel overwhelming and it can feel daunting because maybe
Yes.
you aren't as big of a nerd about this as maybe you and me. And that's totally fine. And you don't have to be.
You
But like,
don't.
how can we empower you with a little bit more education and information so that you can um, kind of get your hands onto the stuff so that you can move forward as
Mhm.
well. Let's talk about a little bit more of about prompting and
Sure.
how your book emphasizes the importance of building, because we're kind of still on that topic of prompting and building sequences of AI prompts. Talk us a little bit through, because agents kind of fall into that space too, right? Could you talk
Yeah,
us
it does.
through an example of
Mhm.
how this sequential approach works in practice? Maybe
Yeah.
building even off the social media one if you want, or give me
Yes.
another example, whichever.
So in this book especially I did talk about there are a different prompting techniques. It's
Mhm.
actually on page 10. So there's a chain of thought prompting,
Mhm.
which is you have a specific thought, and so you build a question, kind of ask like, hey, what is commercial banking? And then the next question is like, what is, then they will give you a lot of information, and then one of them is line of credit, and then you move on and say, what is line of credit? And then maybe next one you say, how can I apply? It's the chain of thought, right?
Mhm.
And then the other one is called tree of thought. It's basically it's expansion on the chain of thought prompting by asking the model to generate multiple potential steps, like line of credit. So how do I apply? Like, can you give me the steps? What do I need to do? Right.
Mhm.
And so there are many different type of prompting techniques. It's kind, even though I this is more kind of like I provided the technique options, but set this aside, just put that away. Is the thing about the chat GPT or any kind of gen AIs at this time is you can carry conversations.
Mhm.
That's how you need to think about it. Don't
Right.
think about any kind of, the technique option I mentioned. It's no use. That's academia. So you think about it when they build a sequence, you don't really have to like, oh my God, let me think about it first, what I need to talk to AI. No, it's
Mhm.
not. It's more or less like you have this specific question. The AI is not answering the way you wanted. Okay,
Yes.
now you have to think about it. How can I write it a little bit differently? Or
Mhm.
or they are answering this and it's like, it's not really that. I don't know. I need to write it. What is this? Or can you
Mhm.
explain a little bit more? Those are like very conversational type of uh, text,
Yeah.
or how we communicate with the real humans. You can write those and to
Mhm.
carry that conversation forward. Like
Right.
that's, for example, just like you said, the social media posts.
Mhm.
Great example. So you write a social media post, but you're like, I don't know. Then there are certain things you can say rewrite,
Mhm.
the two sentences, or you can say no, I need to change my call to action to this, make it stronger. So
Mhm.
that is the sequencing I'm talking about. You can
Yeah.
carry the conversation forward and to
Right.
help them understand a little bit more and to keep
Mhm.
forward.
Yeah. I think one I don't know if this would count as sequencing per se, and you can tell me if it is or not, but like I will do it to help generate because gosh, as a copywriter, it's got thrown on me all the time as a junior copywriter. And those of you who are out there listening that are in that space, you'll empathize. They're like, rate me 100 headlines because
I
it
know.
won't be we won't come up with a good one unless you write 100. And I'm like, I've written for so long now. I know a good headline when I see one. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And I used to have one like chief creative officer. I used to like he'd always be like, you won't get to the good one until it's like 100. And so I used to like take my first headline and put it at the bottom because I knew it was the best and the right headline. And that's the one I wanted anyways, and that's how I got those guys them to choose the one I wanted.
See,
But
AI is
anyhow,
not going to pick up on that. Only
AI is not gonna
human
pick up
can.
on that.
Only
But
human can. Yeah.
now I use AI as my little, junior copywriter bee, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
"Listen, you write me 10 headlines." I'm
10.
not
Yeah,
I'm not as
exactly.
demanding. I'm like, "Write me 10 headlines." In my sequences then, I'm like, "Okay, given that this is my audience and that this is my objective, which of these headlines do you think will be the most effective?"
That's
And I have
also
it
a
analyze
sequencing.
itself.
That's a sequencing because
Okay.
I have done that as well.
Uh-huh.
So it's very interesting to see how AI analyzing,
Yeah, it's
some of the subject
fun.
line. Some of
Yeah,
them I was like, oh my God,
yeah.
okay, I get that.
Uh-huh,
They were like, well, this is actually more benefit driven,
uh-huh.
and the other one is more conversion.
Yeah,
And that one, it's like they are
yeah.
analyzing. I was like, oh my
It's so
God,
fun.
it's
It's so fun to
it's
watch it analyze itself, and then what I'll do is I'll throw it into a subject line tester, and I'll get the scoring, and I'll get the recommendations from the subject line tester, and I'll take that feedback, throw it into the ChatGPT, and I'll have ChatGPT fix it.
See, now you talk about a process of
Yeah.
using two different tools.
Hmm.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love
It's
it.
fun.
So you kind of asking the question and you
Yeah.
find out and get the best out of AI for the time being.
Right.
And then you do using another tool to test it and validate it and then
Hmm.
come back and make it even better.
Yep. And then I feel
Amy,
like
why
a
don't you
true
just be your
genius.
own guest? I
Right.
think you can do a pretty good job of it.
You're funny. Well, then I felt like super awesome because then I got like a 100, which I honestly, in all my years of writing, not gonna lie, friends, I mean, I've gotten like a 95 writing my own, but I've never tested, I've thrown it into a tester and gotten a 100. I was like screenshotting that shit. And I'm like, I'm saving this forever. It was me and Chat GPT, and we
You
worked
know, we're
together
like,
on
you know
this.
what? I help AI to be successful. All
Right?
right, I am so good at it.
We're a great team, me and AI. Oh my gosh, so funny. I love it. But yeah, I think it's again, I mean, it's just I'm a collaborative person. So even whether it's a person or a bot, I'm down for it. I'm down for it.
You were like,
Awesome.
equality,
Right?
inclusion is all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I mean, because again, at the end of the day, you know what? I've got, like you said earlier, I've got the insights, the human insights. I have
Yeah,
got
you
the
do.
empathy,
Yeah,
and I've got like the final say and judgment on those things. It wouldn't have got there without me. It wouldn't have
exactly.
got there
See,
without me.
that's where
Mhm.
humans still provide value. I don't
Yeah,
know how that will evolve, that the AI becomes so smart and because they are
yeah,
learning fast, they are learning every
yeah,
day,
yeah.
and
Well,
I
that
just
was my
don't
next question
know.
is how you see
Sorry.
the role of human expertise evolving as AI prompting becomes more sophisticated. Like, what does our role begin to look like?
That's actually a 64 $1,000 questions. I don't
Hmm.
know. I don't want to be a pundit. Every time I predict something, it's
Sure,
always wrong. I'm the first one to tell you.
you're funny.
It was like, okay, like if you want to put money actually on what Pam said, you should, because
Stop.
you're gonna win. You're obviously gonna win. Um, I th- I think about that often
Hmm.
in terms of that AI becomes super smart.
Hmm.
And I mean, like several weeks ago, that OpenAI basically said the ChatGPT will have reasoning capability.
Okay.
But who defines reasoning, right? What
Yeah.
is their definition of reasoning? So do they have a cognizant capability?
Right.
But they said it's going to obviously when you prompt something, maybe they will provide certain kind of logic behind it. So they are
Okay.
going to give you even better and answer that tailor for you. I don't know what that
Okay.
means.
Yeah.
Um, I
Because I know
do
people that
think,
can't reason. So
yeah,
sorry.
I
Sorry.
love it.
I can't-
So I don't know like how far that
uh-huh.
AI can do, but you also have bear in mind AI at this point that
Hmm.
working with us, they are
Yeah.
software, they are
Right.
algorithm
Hmm.
embedded into devices or
Right.
embedded into a software.
Hmm.
Imagine one day they house that with
Hmm.
a form, with a robot.
Sure.
So in a way, whatever we are doing right now, we collectively as a human race are building that the brain of AI, right? Because
Right.
eventually you're gonna host it.
Uh-huh.
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
that
It just makes
happens,
you
how does
wonder.
that help us in the long run? I
Mm,
don't know. I cannot
okay.
tell you. And we have seen enough. I guess Hollywood horror films, like in
Yeah.
terms of like the Terminator, is probably the best example, or even
Mm,
Data from
yeah.
the Star Trek, the Next Generation.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that they do actually kind of have that the human
Hmm.
capability,
Yeah.
and it's obviously you can also said will they eventually have a conscious
Yeah.
and how they will treat us. I
Mm,
don't have an answer for it, but I can only tell you is at this time they are still just part
yeah.
of the machine
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
part of the algorithm,
Yeah.
and what can you do to make the best out of it?
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you there. I think it is a more to me personally, I think it's more of like I think there's going to be a leveling out a little bit to some degree just based on like certain I think
Saber fighting? Are we going to just do saber fighting with AI? I'm kidding.
no, I think it's gonna be more of like I think it's gonna level out because of corporate greed and money.
Yeah.
They're gonna go public, or they're already gone, or they have not already gone public, or not people not walking out now because they're talking about going public. I mean, I might be getting my like headlines and stories confused, but um like OpenAI is
Yeah.
kind of going to be going public soon, and the guys who helped to start that don't want that. They wanted it to be an open resource for people.
Yeah.
But the problem also with that is at the other end, it's like collective intelligence. When you kind of throw in all the collective intelligence, like, gosh, we're not collectively not always that smart, right? Because it's like, garbage in, garbage out. We talk about
Yep.
that a
Yep.
lot
Yep.
within this space, right? We know not all data is good data. We know there's a lot of biases within some of this stuff that's being fed into the machine. So just it has, because it has input doesn't mean that the output is good,
Good.
right?
Yeah, I 100% agree. And
So
also, depending on the data they pull that information from,
exactly.
that provided you the answer. Yes, I hear you.
Exactly. So for me right now, I think the most critical human role is, really responsibility, accountability, making sure that, bias and error are still something that we're very much focused on. I think conversations about like regulation and democratization, because I really do see AI as something that can help small businesses work,
Yeah.
more
Yes,
effectively, more
tremendously.
efficiently.
Yeah.
But then you see big companies and corporations using it to make excuses to reduce and minimize headcount and things like that because
Ugh,
they see it as an
that's the saddest part.
opportunity,
That's the one I
right?
fear the most for the next
Mhm.
generation.
But
Seriously.
it's to me, it's gonna be like a pendulum, Pam. I think it's gonna be like how they go off and they offshore, not to like totally go
I'm telling,
off
and then
track.
it was like, "This is not working," and they come back to
Yes.
hire people.
Yes. That's kind of my prediction, and again, like, I mean, I don't know, I don't wanna be proven wrong in that. I wouldn't mind that pendulum to swing back the other way where it's
Yeah.
like they offshore jobs, they're like, "Wait, that didn't work, we gotta bring it back stateside," and they do. So it might be, yeah, okay, well, let's all go in on AI. We're gonna be able to reduce headcount and create efficiencies and save our bottom line and pay our C-suite more and
Yep.
our
Yep.
shareholders.
I hear you.
And then, oh crap. No, like we're actually creating marketing campaigns that have bias and errors and that aren't effective. We need to bring humans back in. That's kind of my hope. But who knows? We'll see. Well,
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to wait and see. We'll like come back to this
We are
podcast episode in
hopeful.
5 years.
It is. We are. It's kind of like a blessing and a curse at the
Yeah,
same time,
it is.
that we are witness. We
Mhm.
literally just we
Yeah,
are witnessing
here we are.
how the AI is going to evolve. I
Mhm.
think it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's really an interesting time. And I like to also just fast forward in my head and think about that like in the history books, what is this time going to look like? And right now it feels such like madness and crisis, but somehow fast forwarding in my head makes it feel a little less chaotic and be like, you know what? There was just a time and a place and an era. And that's I think sometimes why equating it to like that assembly line and moving towards more machines and things like that kind of makes it feel, I don't want to try to minimize it at all,
It's so,
but
you
it
know what?
gives
It's
it
going to come.
perspective.
Honestly, Amy, it's going to be chaotic no matter what.
Sure.
I
It
don't
is.
think that the I think it's gonna continue because it's morphing and
Mhm.
evolving.
Yeah.
And some people will like the direction we are going, but you will always find people who
Yeah.
don't like that
Don't
direction
want to move it.
and they
Mhm.
want to disrupt it. So
Yeah.
I personally think that chaos will continue to stay. I don't think it
Mhm.
will ever go away.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we are humans, we just love to like, you know what? I disagree with you. I see
Yeah.
it differently. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Definitely. Yeah, you've got people that are gonna jump on board and move along with it, and others who are gonna drag their feet.
Yep.
Let's dig in a little bit more to some more areas of marketing that you cover in
Sure.
your book, because you definitely talk about SEO, email marketing, as well as social media. Are there any other areas that you think, or which areas do you think has the most untapped potential for AI prompting?
Data analytics.
Talk about that a
And
little bit.
really, so, like content, you can always like,
Hmm.
okay, write us a post. And you can even say, okay, create a demand gen plan, right? You can
Yeah.
give a very specific prompt. And just like you asking the question, say, analyze this,
Hmm.
right? So it's that analytics
Yep.
part of it. I think we can explore a whole lot more.
Yes.
And analyze this and tell me what's good and bad about it. That's data analytics.
Mhm.
or
I
you
love it.
input certain kind of data in that and say, hey, I actually have this I have this opening rate for this
Hmm.
kind of subject line. I'm
Yep.
just using kind of take the
Yeah.
copywriting, elaborate a little bit more. And here is 50 subject lines for the past 50 email campaigns. And each one of them have average of the open rate associated with it.
Hmm.
And can you analyze this for
Yep.
me and then tell me which subject line perform better?
Yes.
And then, of course, the sequencing, why
Hmm.
is better.
Yep.
Then the next sequence is like, I have this email, I want to push it out next month. What, based on all your analysis, what are your 5 proposed subject line?
I love it.
It's that analysis part that we
Hmm.
need to tap into a whole lot more. That
Yes.
requires all of us to think a little bit differently.
Hmm.
Right. So because you are a copywriter, the
Hmm.
first thing you say is, okay, email, perfect. I'll write it. I'll write a subject line. Or just like you said,
Hmm.
you have AI to write the subject line and you test it, and then that's the next step. You
Sure.
move on.
Yeah.
But how can we leveraging past information
Yes.
to train the AI and
Hmm.
see how that information can be utilized?
Yeah.
And then we have data, more data driven type of insight moving
Hmm.
forward.
Yeah.
I think that is one part I
Hmm.
need to do better.
Hmm.
Honestly, I think all of us can do better
Oh
is
yeah.
that analytics part.
100%.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, honestly, Pam, this is where I thought I would see more of it, even though my background is writing. I am, as many of you know who listen to the podcast historically and past episodes, you've probably heard me share this example. I was working at an agency. It was kind of like early days of social listening, and they were
Mhm.
talking about, oh, we've got all this data. And again, a big data, right? All this data in
Mhm.
marketing. We're like, look at all this wealth of information that we're sitting on. But it's like,
But what are we gonna do about
what
it?
in the hell are we doing with it? And I even wrote an article back then. I think it was in 2010. I think it's probably still living on my LinkedIn, talking about like the tension and the balance of like big data and the creative gut. That was in the post, and it was like, I love it because I think data is important. I'm married to an applied mathematician. He's like a PhD. At the time, he was at a university,
Really?
and he
Oh
does.
my god, so you are on the creative side and
Yeah.
he's completely on the other end of the
He's the
spectrum?
opposite, although he's very
Amazing.
creative too, I will argue. He's very creative too, and he does mathematical modeling and computer science as well. And so in mathematical modeling, it is taking a lot of big data and it's analyzing, it's leveraging essentially machine learning, AI effectively, and modeling, so computing and creating and shaping and showing, with a ton of data
Yep.
what might happen within a clinical research environment and setting without actually having to do testing on like animals or people. And so
Yep.
I'm watching at this, company, this agency, they're like, oh, look at us. We've got all this sentiment analysis and we've got a model that we've created to show what that looks like. And I knew they were just pulling it out of their asses, really. And I went home to him and I was like, listen, what you're doing, we've got all this data, but really like computing is the way. And I didn't know AI was a thing, and like, but I knew what he was doing. I was like, that's how we analyze. Like for human brains, we can't process all that information. We
Yep.
can't scour all of that data and find the nuance or model, right?
Yep.
And put it and visualize that information in a way that allows the human eye brain to process and go, oh, there's the pattern. That's what I need to pay attention to, right? That's what I need to look for. And so now that's a lot of what he's doing. So you said you came to the dark side. Now he's in the dark side, doing that for an AI company as well. And I think it's just really awesome because again, 100% agree with you. I think that's been a big problem for marketers is that we have a F ton of data and it's fantastic, but it's like, what are you doing with it? How are you using it? How are you making customers' lives easier? How are you solving problems? How are you really finding insights and creating innovations that aren't just shiny objects, but actually making people's lives better, easier, you know, at the end of the day, versus just adding a feature or a function because you think it's just gonna, be the next big
Yep.
thing. And it's like, I don't know. And I agree. I am very, very, I'm so glad that was your answer. As you can tell, very excited about data analytics and what AI can really do for that space as well, for sure. for sure. And I get Gen AI is like kind of where it's all at right now, but I
Yeah.
really think to me the next phase is that where people need to be paying attention. So if you're not using it in your data analytics, start doing it, folks. All right, can you share a little bit of an example of before and after scenario where a well-crafted prompt significantly improved a marketing outcome?
Yeah. So this is the way I was looking at the before and after. It's unfortunately it's more or less kind of like compare human versus AI to some
Mm,
extent.
okay.
Like for example, if the before and after using AI, I always kind of using myself
Mhm.
as an example. So before I use AI, what are the things I usually do, and then what is the outcome of that? And the other one is after using AI, what is the outcome of it? So that's just use the email marketing as an example.
Yeah.
Same thing, right? So before and after, before you use AI, you create a subject line.
Mhm.
And then we use the same process, Amy, that you talk about in
Mhm.
terms of that you are asking AI to actually create a 5 subject line, do an analysis, you run into the testing to test the subject line, and you come back and have them do better.
Mhm.
So the way I would see a lot of time you need to have a point of view or benchmark in terms of how AI is doing or making an impact on the job that you do. And that's
Mhm.
assuming it's email marketing. So you should have a subject line that's 100% created by human. You also should have a subject line 100% created by AI. Can you do A/B testing?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah.
That's to me, it's before and after. And then you have data to
Mm.
support it. Like, you know what, for this round, human
Yeah.
one, AI zero. But for next round, it might be, 1 and 1. Who knows, right?
That's
But I
interesting.
think it's very important.
Uh-huh.
It's very important that once you are using AI, but you still need to demonstrate your value add.
Yes.
Like
Oh,
the
that's so
example I'm
important.
sharing with you, the example I'm sharing with you, that give you some data. If the AI is performing better, okay, so be it. Great. That's a data
Mhm.
point. But
Mhm.
that's assumed that the human subject lines perform better. That's a data point that you can, speak loud and proud,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's what I see in terms of you need to kind of quantify AI's impact as well. A lot of time we are using it as we are using it.
Mhm.
We just said, okay, they come up pretty good post. I just
Right.
posted,
Yeah.
right? So is it possible you can look at a couple samples and then
Mhm.
have a point of view? Which one performs better?
Yeah.
If AI performs better, we'll make a note of that. You don't have to
Mhm.
promote it loud and clear. But if
Yeah.
you're doing better, you know what? You should let people know.
Yeah.
So that's
Absolutely.
how I see in terms of before and after. I don't know if that's what you have in mind,
Mhm. No,
but
that's a
but I
great
always
example.
feel like it's not human versus AI race. Maybe it is
Sure.
to some extent, but you
Mhm.
need to have a point of view.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love that you're like championing and asking people to remember to truly advocate for themselves and just keep constantly reminding folks that AI is the tool. People are still
Exactly.
doing you're still doing the
You
work.
still doing the work.
It's like AI is not prompting itself. Like, dude,
No
when that
way.
happens, that's
Not yet.
scary. No, that's
Maybe.
scary.
I don't know.
I don't know how that happens. I don't
Yeah,
even know how that
exactly.
happens.
One day, well, but it's not now. That's just focus
I don't
now.
even
Keep
know
at
how
it.
that happens. That would be creepy. That would be absolutely creepy. Okay, so your book is definitely aimed at more of maybe your book is aimed at various roles in both sales and marketing. How do you see AI prompting differently benefiting, say, a content marketer versus maybe a sales or an enablement marketer
Yeah.
or manager?
So
Sorry,
no, it's totally
Friday
okay.
brain.
It's totally fine. Um, it doesn't matter when I was writing this 75 plus prompts and
Mhm.
for different marketing roles because I categorized it in 12 and sales and marketing categories, if you will.
Mhm.
So you have to think in terms of when you do your job. I'm going to give a generic answer and I will give a specific answer. So
Okay.
when you are doing your job, it doesn't matter what job: email marketing, event marketing, community managers, and or even salesperson or sales enablement managers. There's always a prompt you can write,
Mhm.
like to ask AI. Like for example, on the sales enablement, I need to create say pricing guide for my sales
Mm,
manager for these three products and
yeah,
compare with these three competitive products. Can you pull the
nice.
information from my pricing? You enter information and also pull the pricing information from their website. You provide specific information and then create a table that compare product A, B, C, and D and with the competitor's product C, D, and E. Right. So you can actually do a very specific a prompt for that. And by the way, when you say create a table, the ChatGPT can actually do that.
Nice.
And so that's kind of what I see is look at your own job, the
Yeah.
job that you are doing on a regular basis, and then you are thinking, you think about it and say, okay, I am thinking hard about this specific question or the
Mm-hmm.
challenges. Can I just write a prompt and ask AI about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's one way you should turn around in terms of how you think.
Mm-hmm.
That helpful? So
Yeah.
focus on your job, what you do, and then
Mm-hmm.
see if AI can provide value.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Then
I
of
love it.
course, specific job, like if you are doing a content, if you are content marketing, if you are content marketer, sorry, and if you are creating content, of course, using AI and then provide a very specific guidance and create long
Mm-hmm.
form content or short form content for you, that's
Yes.
definitely given. And we've been
Mm-hmm.
talking about those examples plenty in this
Mm-hmm.
podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing. Like the amount of content planning and strategy and outlining you can crank out in such a short amount of time.
Time,
You
it's
know,
amazing.
it's
Yeah.
just, it's wonderful. And like I said, it just, when you are a small business and you've got limited tools and resources, it's like, it's amazing. And I love this idea of like the competitor, like the analysis, the table, the pricing. I know I've definitely used it too for like writing or just helping me get started on writing like those emails for sales.
Yep.
Cause sometimes I
Mhm.
feel so like forced, even when I'm trying to write them myself.
Yeah.
Hot tip here, I will go and I will find like their bio or any personal information about them. And I'll put that into the prompt as well and ask AI to make sure that
To
it
make sure, yeah,
includes
it's included.
some sort of personal, like kind of detailed to them so that it really, like, I actually was using it more for like press releases and trying to reach out to the press
Yeah.
about our upcoming conference. And I really wanted it to speak to, again, because I'm like, I want to grab their attention. Like they report on specific aspects about our community. So I really want it to tie to what they are reporting on. And so it's like making sure that it hits those points. This is also great for job seekers too. We do a job seekers peer group every Thursday for Together Digital members. And we were talking a lot about this, how much AI is a great tool for job seekers right now, because when you need to craft, cover letters and resumes, and every single one has
Oh,
to be
so much
very
work. Yeah, it
specific,
has to be
right?
tailored and customized. Yes.
Yeah, AI can be such a fantastic way to really help you kind of get a great start on making sure that you're hitting all the right notes. Again, obviously you've got to kind of do the work and go through and make sure everything is right there and accurate,
Exactly.
but it really
Exactly.
does
So
help.
that's
Go ahead.
that's what, sorry, I apologize to
No, you're
interrupt.
fine, hon.
Sorry. But you hit the core. You still have to
Mhm.
do that job, the last 20 miles.
Yeah.
Even though they had created a draft for you, you are the one still needs to read it and you
Mhm.
have to proofread it. You cannot just take it
Yes.
blindly.
Mhm.
And I think that's very important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got to add the finishing touches and the color as well. Because I
True.
can't, again, it's coming from a writer, right? It's especially when it's coming from me. I just feel like there's just certain words. And I mean, I will tell it over and over again. I'm like, stop saying this specific word. Like, nobody says this. I'll yell at it. I'll be like, nobody says this word, and I don't know why I can't think of any of them right now, but it'll like, there's certain words it'll just say over and over again. I'm like, please stop saying that in the digital world, in the digital landscape. I'm like, nobody says
Oh
that.
yeah, and
Stop.
unleash, harness.
Unleash. Yes, I
Oh my
love
God. Like
harness.
like you
Shadow.
ask them to write anything, they always like unleash the power
Uh-huh.
of,
Yep.
harness the power. I was like, stop using those words. I
Co
100% agree with you.
banning these words from your vernacular AI. I love it. But yeah, you really need to kind of make sure you bring in the language that's truly you, so it sounds authentically you. All
Yep.
right, let's talk about, so on that note, I think this is a great segue as well. Like, what are some common mistakes that you see marketers making when it comes to crafting AI prompts or even just leveraging AI in general? I'll
It
go right
just
into that.
too generic. It's like
Mhm.
you cannot say create mm, a marketing plan for me.
Yeah.
They're not like, it's not, it's that's not gonna happen.
No.
So you have to put into your thoughts in terms of your prompts, like
Mhm.
create a marketing plan
Mhm.
for this type of company, for this type of products. Our challenges for our marketing plan so far are blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
And we've been creating marketing plan. You can even upload your marketing plan, and our target audience is this.
Mhm.
But so far, we have not been able to meet our KPI, which is the
Mhm.
following. So you provide all that information. So you have to do prep. In
Yeah.
a way, you have to know your products pretty well. You have to know
Yep.
stuff,
Mhm.
right? So you have to have you. How do you convey that knowledge of yours
Mhm.
into like part of the prompt writing?
Right.
So to brief the AI bot, they can, spit out the information that you
Mhm.
want.
Yeah.
Don't make it generic,
No.
and also put it into the right context.
Mhm.
To me, those two are very, very important. That means sometimes
Yeah.
you just have to write a bunch and
Mhm.
then check it out. And again, do the sequencing like Amy indicated.
Yeah.
I think the common mistake is really, first of all, too generic. And second thing
Yes.
is also be patient. Like
Mhm.
you know how many times I write prompts? Oh my God, this is
Yes.
not what I want, and I have to walk away. I was
Yeah.
like, AI, you are not performing today. I'm very disappointed in you. You know what I'm saying? And then you have to freaking walk away.
Yeah.
And so you have to be patient.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, and as you were speaking of him, it really just occurred to me too. For those of you that are listening that are non-marketers, I think you have to be careful. Like, do not think AI will replace your marketers. And I think a really good analogy is there is a gentleman, I'm not going to remember his last name right now. Gosh, and I feel bad because I want to give him some credit. So you guys can follow him on LinkedIn right now. His name's Terry. And he does beautiful food photography with AI, like complementary food photography with AI, where he puts together
Wow.
both real life photography, sometimes with AI backgrounds and AI integration. And the reason why Terry is so brilliant at what he does is because he has been doing food photography, lighting, set design, and everything for
For a
30
long time.
years.
Yeah,
He
exactly. The
knows
tribal knowledge. The
he
tribal
know
knowledge.
100%. Your marketers know what to ask. They know what dials to turn. They know what to tweak. They know what to ask for. They know when what Chat GPT puts out is wrong. And so it's like if you are totally not well versed in marketing and you think that you can just go in and say, "Give me a marketing plan." No, like you can't.
Got
Like you don't
it.
what you're going to get out is total BS and it's not going to be accurate. It's not going to be right. Don't think that AI can replace your marketers. Please, 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 please. And when you have people in AI using marketing for marketing, make sure that they are marketers themselves because again, I think that's the beauty of what Terry does is because he's a photographer first and foremost, and he still very much champions doing the art that he does, but knows now, really understands AI well, and also still has that legacy knowledge, obviously, of photography.
Exactly.
And he
Yeah.
couldn't do one without the other. So
That's
just
true.
wanted to
And
say that.
it's also your expertise, right? I mean,
Mhm,
you need to be able to judge what AI's responses are.
mhm.
You can
Yeah.
you have to call it out. It's like, oh, this is a BS response. Or
Yes.
oh, this is very, very good.
100%.
That kind of judgment call comes
Mhm.
from your expertise.
Yes, agreed. Agreed. Yeah, because I was even looking at some of his stuff and he had like croissants with like the layers and like crumbs. And I'm like, oh, and I used to do food photography for like Conagra and some other food brands. And I was just blown away.
Oh my
You
God.
know, and I've seen other stuff and I'm like, yeah, no, like that's crazy. The
You're
lighting
like,
is the
that
lighting
is
is really
not my
off. It
standard.
is wonky, like, you can just tell things aren't right, but, it's hard. It's hard to prove what's real and what's AI with Terry's work. All right, Courtney, I see you got a question here from our live
Sure.
listening audience, so thank you, Courtney. She's calling out the fact that I mentioned earlier that in some cases, different AI agents can work collaboratively with each other. Can you provide some examples of that and how these, use cases might be valuable to marketers? We'll get into this probably more. I've got hopefully an upcoming
The
guest,
next one. Yep.
from Verve, Sarah, who works with them there, will maybe get more into this with us too. And the case that I was sharing in that example, they're more of a tech company. They're called, I think, Crew AI, if I remember correctly. So you can look them up, and they're a multi-agent platform, and they definitely look at it from like a multidisciplinary role, in the sense of you might have, a like a running a reports type of a thing, like a financial reports person running something, who might then do a run and a check of, like the financial reports, then running a check through. I'm trying to think of the other agent that he created. He also created an agent that was like the CMO, who maybe ran marketing reports. Thank you, Kaylee. Of course, she found it really quickly and dropped it into the chat. I love it. You're so awesome. So you can kind of take a look at there and at those. And so what they would do from a collaborative standpoint is actually cross reference. So you could basically create commands and prompts so that whatever each agent is creating reports on, that they would then collaborate in the sense of creating an additional cross report reference report, so that like
Uh-huh.
marketing might feed into the financial reports for, so like you wouldn't have like your CMO, like you have your CMO create like the marketing report and like how they everything performed from a KPI standpoint, right? What the
Got
spend
it.
was. That would feed into the financial report. The financial person wouldn't have all that information and data. So it's more like they're kind of talking to one another. How that might work for a marketer, I don't know exactly yet. Like I said, this is like kind of newish territory. But I don't know, Pam, if you've got some examples too of how other agents and how maybe you've seen them or used them in the past too might work for marketers if you have a multi-agent tool that is just marketing or for marketers.
I don't have the multi-agent tools that I'm using and at all. And
Hmm.
each agent that I use tend to perform on its own
Yeah,
and is more task driven.
driven.
But I can totally see that each agents talk to each other. So the now analogy I would like to use on top of yours, think of the each agent talk to themselves like a data flow. Like
Hmm.
you have, like for
Yeah,
example, you have
process
the
flow.
data from like a marketing automation tool, that data needs to flow into
Mm,
CRM for you to track, kind of like, MQL to marketing qualified leads to SQL
yeah.
sales qualified lead. So the way that you need to think about how agents talk to each other, think of those agents still as a software. They are
Yeah.
all are softwares.
Hmm.
So the technical part of it, in terms of how they talk to each other, that's going to let the technical person figure it out. But
Hmm.
you have to think it's a data flow from one place to
It's
another.
great.
If you
Yeah,
think from that perspective, then it's not confusing. It's pretty clear to you.
I
They
think
are
that
two
makes.
software. They just need
Yep.
to talk to each other.
I think that's a great example. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I love it. That's very helpful.
Thank you.
I know. It's gonna be so, I think that kind of stuff is super interesting because I mean, I like I love automation as well. That could be like a
Yeah,
whole
me
other
too.
conversation. Also love it. All right. Cool. Well, if anybody else has any other questions, we've got a few minutes left. Looking ahead, Pam, how do
Yeah.
you think AI prompting skills will impact career advancement in marketing and sales?
I think I think this from a perspective of hard skills and soft skills.
Yeah.
I think to be able to prompt is a hard skills you need to have. Everybody
Hmm.
should have that skill set. Okay.
Yeah.
The soft skills on the prompt is like you need to have a point of view what
Hmm.
the prompting can do and
Yeah.
cannot do for you.
Yes.
That is going to be up to you to articulate well.
Hmm.
That is a soft skill,
Yep.
right? So that to me is understand. Once you understand, and by the way, the prompting will continue to evolve,
Yeah.
and AI might take on more and more the stuff that are off your plate. So that soft skill of explaining what AI can do, cannot do, will continue to evolve as well.
Hmm.
And that having that point of view will also guide your career development. You're
Absolutely.
like, oh my God, you know what? AI is kind of like enroached my category right now, territories right now. Maybe I
Yeah.
need to look at slides. I need to look at my job differently, or I need to change job.
Hmm.
So from my perspective, is be able to articulate so well
Yeah.
in terms of what AI can do for you. It's
Yep.
super critical.
I agree. I love it. Take it, embrace it, own it, be the thought leader on it. I love
That's
that.
right.
Yeah. Be the one who's like has a point of view on it. Yeah. Be the educator. I think maybe, Pam, like you just did, pick it up and write a book on it. Damn it. And I love it. Courtney's like, so helpful. Wonderful discussion. I'm getting Pam's books.
Awesome.
Awesome. All right. We're at our fun time. We're down to the last minute. So we're going to go through our power round of
Okay.
questions, which are fun, our little lightning round of questions. So, what is one AI tool that you can't live without?
One is obviously ChatGPT or something called Magi,
Oh, okay.
MAGAI.
I love it.
The tool actually created the interface that
Uh-huh.
with like Gemini,
Uh-huh.
Copilot, Claude, and
Uh-huh.
ChatGPT, and you can pick and choose which one you want to use instead
Ooh,
of going
love
to a
it.
different platform. I like that called
Wonderful.
MAGAI. And the other one is
MAGAI.
Opus Clip.
Yep.
And for
Love
example,
Opus
I
Clip.
create a video and I
Mhm.
have AI to cut different shorts. And I
Uh-huh.
kind of like that. Yeah.
It's
They're
fantastic.
not always successful. You still have to,
You still have to do the
do a
work.
post production. Yeah. Mhm.
I agree, but Opus is amazing. I 100% agree. Biggest AI fail you've experienced or witnessed?
My own book. I actually do not want to write this book. I want
Yeah?
AI to take all the credit. I want to say created by AI. You
Oh, that's
know,
so funny.
So I actually hire a developer and work with
Uh-huh.
me to write not just the prompts but code. I have this person input and write a code to actually read my blog post library and
Uh-huh.
also read all the videos
Uh-huh.
I have created, so to
Uh-huh.
understand my tone and manner.
Uh-huh.
And I also created a table of content, detailed table of contents with a subchapter and also the description for each chapter.
Uh-huh.
So I got the tone and manner down. I
Uh-huh.
got the skeleton of the outline down, and I
Uh-huh.
tried to provide as much information as possible. It failed miserably. How dare you, AI? How dare you?
I failed.
And it failed miserably. And the thing is, when they write the 20,000 words, and you will understand this, every single sentence sounds beautiful. It's
Uh-huh.
very flowery, but when
Uh-huh.
you read it carefully, there's no substance underneath it. None.
Ah. Uh-huh.
And I was like, God damn it. I have to write a book now. This is not acceptable, AI. So
Uh-huh.
here I am. I ended up writing the whole book.
That's
But if
hilarious.
you actually do a certain paragraph,
Mhm.
like you have AI rewrite certain paragraph, they do a pretty good job. But
Yeah.
if you are looking for AI to run just like from page 1 to page 100,
Mhm.
no, not there
Good
yet.
to know.
No.
Good to know. Oh my gosh, I love that
Try
so
it. You know
much.
what? Maybe you know what, Amy, you might have a better success than me. I feel miserably. I was so sad. I was crying.
Well, you know what, Pam? It's okay. That's how we learn, right? That's
Yeah,
how we grow. And I
exactly.
love that you're
Exactly.
willing to share that. That's what it's all about. Because we all fail. Nobody got to success without screwing up at some point. This was so much fun. All right, we're just past time. So,
Okay, sounds good.
folks, if you've got questions, if you want to reach out to Pam, we will include
Please.
all of the ways you can follow her, learn more about her. Her website, her books will be in the show notes. Live listeners, those are also in the chat. So make sure you grab those before we close out here in a second. Pam, thank you so much. I knew this would be a blast. So it was wonderful to bring you in and introduce you to our amazing listeners and our Together Digital community. Thank you so much for all the awesome work you're doing. This is a
Thank you so much
blast.
for having me, Amy. Wonderful.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful.
Anytime. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us on this Friday. Hope you all are staying safe and enjoying the rest of your Friday. And we'll see you all next week. Until then, keep asking, keep giving, and keep growing. See you
Take
all soon.
care. Bye bye.
Bye.